Welcome to IAYTD and welcome to Word Up. Today we are talking about video games, but we're talking about types of games and the acronyms that describe them, because I know this can be confusing. You might see something and say, oh, I don't know what type of game that is. People throw out acronyms. So we're going to cover them. We're not going to cover every genre of game, but we're going to cover the genres that have confusing acronyms. So here's an example as we start. RTS, real-time strategy. Real-time is exactly as it says. It is taking place in real time. You and your opponent are going at the same time, which means as they move, you're moving. Popular examples of RTSs might be games like StarCraft or Command and Conquer. These games tend to have resource management, city building, things like that. Now, the opposite of real-time strategy is turn-based strategy. And this means you do all that, you do some building, some upgrading, but then you stop and your turn is over and your opponent goes. And so now they do some stuff. Then you go. So it's back and forth. It's not real time, it's turn-based. But these games are still strategic. So they're maybe zoomed out a little bit, they're bigger. When you zoom in, it becomes a turn-based tactics game. So an example of this might be something like XCOM or Fire Emblem, where you have a squad and you're commanding to the very minute detail of this is where they walk, and then they do this, and this is where they step, and they're hiding behind this thing. It's very zoomed in and strategic, but it's turn-based. Now, shifting gears, we're going to talk about FPS, first-person shooter. So this is a shooter, but it's first-person, meaning your perspective. So you're looking down the barrel of a gun. Games like Call of Duty, games like Halo, those are first-person shooters. And now we're going to cover RPG, role-playing games. Now, RPG is a genre of thing. That there are tabletop RPGs, there are card RPGs, but there are video games that are RPGs. And what that means is that you play a role. You are living in a character's body, you are choosing their upgrades, you are deciding how they dress, maybe you are playing a part. Maybe there's decisions, there's dialogue that you have to make. In some of these games, you create a character, so you're choosing a race or a class, you're choosing their upgrades. All of that is RPG. And so you might hear people say there are RPG elements in other genres of games. So you might hear, in this game, there are RPG elements because there's stats that you boost and choose as you level up. Now, when it comes to RPGs, there's two big types we need to talk about. The first one is the Western RPG. And those are traditionally American or Western style games that allow you to create a character from scratch, and you're usually in a huge open world, and you're making decisions. So games like this might be Fallout or BioWare RPGs like Mass Effect. Those are Western RPGs. The opposite is the more traditional Japanese RPG, JRPG. In Japanese role-playing games, you tend to play as a preset character. So games like Final Fantasy, where this is who you are, you can make decisions and you might be able to level them up in different ways, but you're kind of playing a part. Now you can add the word action to any of these, so you have an action RPG, and these are RPGs that are a little more button mashing, games like Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, that you are chaining together combos, it's active, you're doing things constantly, as opposed to maybe the typical hold a button and attack. That is not action-based. And then we often hear the term MMO, which stands for Massive Multiplayer Online. Now, this just means there's a lot of people and they're playing online. So really MMOs can be any genre, but the most popular is the MMORPG, which is the Massive Multiplayer Online role-playing game. And these are games like World of Warcraft. So there are tons of people playing together, but each one is upgrading their own, character and changing their clothes and their class and everything, but it's still all together in one world. And lastly, the last acronym that we really need to tackle here is MOBA, which is Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. Where a MMO is thousands of people, MOBA tends to be smaller. So it's not massive, but it's multiplayer. So it might be a squad of 3 or 5, and those people play against another squad of 3 or 5. And so it's a battle arena. Usually there are different objectives, different things you have to do to compete, but it's pretty small scale. But you choose a character and there still might be some RPG elements with how they upgrade, but it's really just a small scale battle arena. So popular MOBAs might be things like League of Legends, Dota, Smite, games like that are MOBAs. So now let's use some of these acronyms in sentences so you can get a feel for it. Battleborn wasn't just a FPS, but it had some interesting MOBA elements. The newest Call of Duty incorporated some interesting RPG elements like the weapon upgrade system. The Final Fantasy games are a prime example of JRPGs, but their switch from turn-based to real-time combat resembles most Western RPGs. So thanks for watching Word Up. If you want to learn other words and terms and how to use them, you can check out my other Word Up videos right here. And down in the comments, I want you to tell me about your favorite type of game. What do you play? What's your style? What do you tend to gravitate towards? We'll see you next time.